Do you have toxic friends, family, coworkers? Managing toxic relationships or managing toxic people can be super challenging. And in this video, I want to cover some strategies you can use on how to mitigate and manage your exposure to toxic people. So there's three pieces that I'm going to cover. Jumping right in, the first one is regulation. So I'm telling you this story because there was a couple comments. There's one particular comment that I went into with a viewer and it went super long. It was like 20 replies deep, and we were going back and forth on how to navigate toxic relationships towards the end of that conversation. And I think it's a really good question. It's something that comes up a lot. I think it's something we all have to deal with, right? So when I ask the question, do you have toxic friends, family, or coworkers? It's like, I know the answer is 99.9% yes if you're a human. So how do you regulate that? What's the process of regulation for that? Before I jump in, I want to give an analogy, and it's going to be kind of quirky, so stick with me, but this is what happened this week. So I have an EV, and electrical vehicles, they run off of electricity. So when you plug them in, they charge, right? And this particular week, I've been charging at this third-party charger that's like nearby my house, and I'm really grateful to have it. And for whatever reason, they replaced the cords, the plug cord, and the J1772 adapter, the adapter that plugs into my car, keeps melting this intermediate adapter. So I have a Tesla. This is a standard J1772, so it's a standard EV plug. It keeps melting this intermediate adapter. I'm on my second or third plug. And today, talking to the Tesla technician, he's like, no, it's not your car, it's the adapter. And I said, how can you tell? And he was talking about resistance, how the car was resisting taking this energy in at a point, and there's these redundancies where the car will not accept over voltage or under voltage or over amperage or under amperage. It will not accept, it will only accept a certain threshold of energy. And that got me thinking about, how do we regulate toxic people? I know that's kind of a wild ride and a crazy roller coaster to go down, but stick with me. So the car regulates the threat, it mitigates the threat, it mitigates the risk. It's the gate for what it's going to allow in and what it's going to allow out. And it's our responsibility in the same way to mitigate and regulate what we're allowing in and out. And now, obviously, I'm not saying this is easy. When you have, it could be a parent, a friend, it could be someone really close to you that is, toxic. Maybe they're negative or whatever the toxicity is for you. And you can't cut people out of your life all the time. There are certainly people you can cut out, and you should, at least for a season. And then there are people that it's much harder to do that with, right? And so the point in starting this conversation off with regulation is like, it's up to you to regulate the energy that's coming in and out of your space. So that's your responsibility. I bring this up because when you see things about, and I've made previous videos on this, but it's like a toxic workplace, your workplace shouldn't cost you, your mindset or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but like who is that up to? It's up to you to regulate what you're allowing in and out. It's up to you to work in a workplace that's conducive to you being a high performer, and this certain type of boss and whatever scenario that you need, the certain type of management scenario that you need to work at your optimal level. That's up to you. That's not your boss's problem. That's not the company's problem. Like, that is your responsibility. If it's your problem, it's your responsibility. So that's where I want to bring up regulation. It's up to you to rate limit your exposure to toxic people and environments. I'm not saying it's easy. Some people, like I said, you can cut out. Others you reduce time with, right? And so there's this process of you have to cut back on certain things. Maybe you have conversations, you have a weekly conversation with someone that's in your family. It's like all of a sudden you're not having that every week, or it's not as long, right? And so you're not being mean to them, but it's like I'll get to why this is important at the end. But regulation, it's up to you to figure out how to start to scale back the toxic relationships. Okay, number one was regulation. Number two is immersion. Find mentors. I hated hearing this. You guys have all heard something to the extent of, you're the average of the 5 people or whatever that you surround yourself with, right? This is really annoying if you live remotely, like I was living in the middle of the woods next to like cows and a bird sanctuary 30 minutes from a grocery store. But the positive side of this is it's not just physical. Like, you don't have to just go sit with Tom Bilyeu or Patrick Bet-David or whoever. Like, you can spend time with them virtually. You can spend time in their audiobooks. You can spend time reading their paper books. You can spend time in their video content. You can spend time with your mentors and immerse yourself in their videos, in all of their content, their speeches, all of that stuff. I know it's not as good as being physical, but like if you don't have that as an option, being in the same room with them, that being virtual is just as good. So what happens when you do this, when you spend a lot of time with them, and this could go into like a Dunbar's numbers, where it's like after 7 hours, there's this magical connection that happens between two people, where it's like an influencer has 7 hours of content, someone consumes that content, all of a sudden they start getting more attached to that influencer. But you'll begin to think and then speak, and then eventually you'll start acting like these people that you look up to your mentors. And the crazier part of all of that is, like, if that's not wild enough, right? Like, you start thinking, like, for me, I start thinking in the way that Myron Golden thinks, which is wild. Then, like, I noticed that I've been talking to people, something this weekend, someone was asking me about something, and I started getting really loud about it. Not like loud in a mean way, but just loud in a, I'm like so excited to talk about this kind of way, like Myron will. And then you'll start to act like them. The way that I open my videos, if you look at it, like, I realize like a lot of the way I open my video is from how he opens his videos, and how other people that I like open their videos. You'll start acting and thinking and talking like them, which is kind of weird, but also really cool. The next piece is, assuming your mentors are positive people, focused on growth and advancement, you start to mirror them. So we had regulation, which is like cutting back on regulating the toxic environment that you put yourself into, regulating toxic energy that's coming towards you. And then you have immersion, which is immersing yourself in people you want to be like. And then you have conversion. Regulation, immersion, conversion is the final one. And so people in your life, in and around your life, and yes, even sometimes toxic people, they'll notice you're starting to change. You're starting to think differently. You're starting to talk differently. You're starting to become a warmer person, right? It's all dependent on who your mentors are. People will notice this change in you. And I'm like watching this happen myself. And people will notice this positive change, and they're going to want in. There are people in my life who are certainly not toxic, but it's like they've influenced me to start going to the gym or thinking about the gym differently. And there's people that I've influenced, maybe their diet, or there's people that have influenced me to pick up certain kind of books, or, I have one friend in particular that's pushing me into sci-fi and like all these other novel types more. And to me, I'm like, there's no return on investment. But as I get into them, I'm starting to realize there's these parts of my mind creatively that are opening up, right? So people see the fruits of your immersion. They see that you're starting to think and talk and speak and act differently, and they want a part of that. And so they'll start leaning in. They'll start asking. They'll start being interested in what you're doing, and you'll have the opportunity to help them with maybe working out, maybe with diet, maybe it's meditation, or maybe it's some spirituality thing. You'll have the opportunity to put your hand back once you have a good routine and a platform and a schedule, to pull your hand back and pull them up with you. And that could go for people in your life that are toxic and people that aren't. They're just in your life and they're positive or they're neutral. And so remember in the beginning I said I'm going to get to why you should do this at the end. The why, the big why, is the best thing that you can do for toxic people is to not be one of them. The best thing you can do for toxic people is to show them that there's a better way that works, that at least it works for you. And then once you're in a stable enough spot, is to reach your hand back and help people up the ladder. So yeah, this is what I would recommend on mitigating and maximizing your relationship with both toxic and positive environments, and how to get the most out of your life. Yeah, it's your responsibility. Make of it what you will. The best thing you can do for toxic people is to not be one of them. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.